This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and today's guest is absolutely one of the biggest names in the state of Michigan as far as the blues is concerned. In fact, when I asked some of my friends for a list of potential people to interview about the blues in this state, this gentleman's name came up every single time. Now, I found a piece in 2016 touting his musical prowess, stating he has been blasting away with his 1956 Gibson for decades now and can rattle off more than 400 vintage tunes from the blues to the 50s rock and even some of the archives of 40 swing. Now, if you happen to have a copy of the 1972 Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival album, which is on Atlantic Records, you'll find him backing the likes of Boogie Woogie Red and Johnny Shines. Now, there's a lot more to talk about, but without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Steve Nardella. Steve, welcome to Time Signatures.
Yes.
How are you?
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Well,
I'm fine.
It's a pleasure to have you, and there's so much that I want to talk to you about, man, but I want to start back at the beginning. What were your earliest memories of music as you were growing up?
My earliest memories of my dad had all the Hank Williams 78s. Even when I was 3 or 4 years old, I was listening to Hank Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he's blues to me.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of grew up with the blues. And then when 50s rock and roll hit in 56, I was 8 years old and I fell in love with it, man. Elvis, Gene Vincent,
Sure.
Eddie Cochran, Little Richard. You know, I mean, it was just, I love that music. I still do. I love vocal group music also.
Very good. Now, I wanted to ask you, did you have any favorite bands or some of those songs that you just had to hear over and over when you were growing up?
Well, I liked mostly the black artists, you know, like Muddy Waters and Slim Harpo, Jimmy Reed. These are records I had since I was 12.
Wow.
I just listened to it. I love that kind of music. I love Chicago blues. And I studied it. And when I moved to Ann Arbor, part of the reason I moved to Ann Arbor was it was closer to Chicago.
Okay.
When I settled in Ann Arbor, the club started booking, Ann Arbor started booking blues. And we got all the Chicago guys coming in all the time at the Blind Pig. Some of them would play Mr. Flood's Party.
Yes, sir.
Mackinac Jacks. There was a bunch of clubs later on. Come Joe Star Lounge, Rick's American Cafe. I mean, there were all kinds of places to play blues. So it was a good place to settle for a while and to get myself working. And I started out as a harmonica player, but I started playing guitar. Actually, I started playing guitar when I was, the same time I started harmonica when I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
But so finally I added the guitar to my thing. And then I started singing. So it's been a process of a slow grow process, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, when did you land in Ann Arbor? About what year?
In 1971.
Okay. Now,
I had been on the East Coast, and I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island.
sure.
I played with a guy called Ken Lyons for a few years. And he was like an institution there. Everybody knew him. And then me and Duke Robillard got a band together for a while.
Okay.
And we added John Nicholas to the band. And Fran Christina, Al Copley. We gigged for 5 minutes, and then that broke up. Too many chiefs.
Sure.
You know, you look at the talent there. You know, it's just abundant, you know.
Oh yeah. Now,
But
that 1956 Gibson, when did you get it? Tell me about the acquisition. How did you get it? And do you
well, it's
still
not
have it?
mine anymore. No,
Okay.
I don't have it anymore.
Okay.
But it was a beautiful guitar. I miss some of the tones I could get out of it that for sure I'll never be able to get out of any other guitar the rest of my life. Uh, but it needed a whole ton of work, and it really was on the edge of being unplayable.
Oh boy.
But it was still playable. I'm still doing gigs with it,
Sure.
but they had problems. So I finally did get rid of it.
Okay. Did the new owner get it fixed up? It's back in service?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know who bought it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Guy bought it off me, and he sold it to somebody.
Okay. Well,
So I really don't know who got it.
sure. Steve, I wanted to ask you about your visit to New York City. Now, who did you see while you were in town that first time?
In 1964 or 65, I saw Muddy Waters
Okay.
with James Cotton, Otis Spann.
Wow.
It was a great band. Muddy's band never lived up to that point again. But he always had a good band though.
Sure.
I liked Portnoy, and he did a good job with Muddy Portnoy. And after Muddy, I started seeing everybody: Howlin' Wolf, Junior Wells, Buddy Guy, all the people back in the '60s. You know,
All the big names,
when
huh?
when they were playing right.
Right.
You know,
Now, when did you decide to come to the state of Michigan? When did you actually make your move here?
when Black Hat, which was the name of my band with Duke Roblox, when that broke up, it was winter time. I said, well, springtime, I'm moving to Ann Arbor. And John Nicholas decided to come with me.
Okay.
So we hitchhiked, we jumped the fence in Rhode Island, got on the highway, we hitchhiked to Ann Arbor.
Oh my goodness. And how long did that take you?
We were lucky. We got a couple of long rides,
Okay.
but it took, a couple of days.
Sure. Sure.
And me and John, we went all over the place. And when we lived in Ann Arbor, we were constantly going to Chicago. And I remember one night going in here, Jimmy Reed with Eddie Taylor, and just stuff like that, And we hitched. I remember one time we hitchhiked to Boulder, Colorado, and hopped freight trains, and rode freight trains out there.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, we were nuts, man.
Now, Steve, when you first got into Michigan in the Ann Arbor area, what did you do? Did you get yourself involved in music? What was going on at that time?
Well, me and John Nicholas started playing right away.
Okay.
I mean, we a month after we were here, we had all kinds of gigs.
Wow.
Mr. Floods was high on the stand, and the other bars around town. And we were working all the time. And then we were backing up Lightnin Slim.
Oh, no kidding.
Johnny Shines. One night, we were playing Mr. Flood's party.
Mm-hmm.
Me and John Nicholas. And in town, at the alley, Johnny Shines and Off the Big Boy Crudup were playing. So they were staying at the house with me and John.
Wow.
And
They stayed with
at my house. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I slept on the floor, the same place that Off the Big Boy Crudup slept.
Wow.
There's a guy who sold millions of records of Elvis. Millions, and never got a dime for it, man.
Mm. It's amazing to me, the amount of...
But anyway, I wanted to tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
They came down to Mr. Flood's party that night. We were playing. And they got up, Johnny Shines got up on the stage. The stage is so small. Arthur Crudup stayed down on the table in the front of us. And he just sang, man. And we had one of the greatest jam sessions I remember.
Wow.
We had quite a few good ones like that at Floods. I remember one night Sammy Lawhorn came in, man. and we just rocked the fucking joint, man. I mean,
Wow.
but that's true. That went on all the time back then. Big Walter Horton was coming to town all the time.
Sure.
Carrie Bell was coming. Hound Dog Taylor. It was a whole different town then.
That must have been an exciting time for you, especially because I know you said you moved up to Ann Arbor to get closer to Chicago, and here's all these Chicago and even national names that are coming through the area. Yeah.
Right. And Second Chance, they would have the big names, man. Second Chance was on Liberty Street.
Sure.
You know the joint I'm talking about.
Well, I know of it.
Yeah. Anyway, they used to book all the big acts. I worked there with Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry, a bunch of people, man.
So did you get to rub elbows with Chuck Berry's band, the Woolies, at all when they came through?
No, I never did.
Okay.
We did a gig with Chuck at Meadowbrook too. Meadowbrook was like the big outdoor thing,
Okay.
And we did that with Chuck. But I don't know who was playing with him at the time.
Okay.
I don't think it was the Woolies.
Gotcha. Now, I have to tell you, I picked up a copy of the 1972 Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival's album. And
Yes.
It blew my mind because I didn't know at the time that you were on it, but then I saw your name in the credits back in Boogie Woogie Red and Johnny Shines. Talk about that for a moment. And how did that come to be for you? Were you surprised to learn that your performance was captured and became part of the album?
I didn't know that the Johnny Shines. I didn't know anything was going to be on it.
Okay.
I remember one time, me and my girlfriend, we went to the Michigan Union. Used to have a record store.
Okay.
And we went in the record store and they were playing the record. And it was me. I go, what the fuck? What's this? And they told me this is the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz. I didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
But it was fun playing with Johnny Shines. We backed up Lightnin Slim on that festival also.
Okay. Now, speaking of Boogie Woogie Red, because I've been in touch with Fred Reif. I'm assuming it was at the time that he was working with Fred, because it seems to that I recall some cassettes and reels.
He was working with Boogie Woogie Red.
Okay.
But Red would also, Red, as far as the Blind Pig goes, I don't think he had the book. The Blind Pig gave him every Monday night for 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Or more.
Wow.
So he was there every Monday night.
Now, I was told that I had to ask you about your association with Kim Wilson. So can you fill us in on this?
Yeah, I met Kim when I went down when the Silvertones went down to Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Actually, I met him before that, but very, very, very briefly. But when I moved to Austin, Texas, we became friends. And Jimmy Vaughan is a good buddy of mine.
Okay.
And Stevie was a good friend of mine.
Wow.
I had good memories of Stevie too. I remember one night I was staying at the bass. What was the name? The bass player for the Thunderbirds. What was his name? I got it on the edge of my tongue. Anyway, I was staying in his house, and one night there was a knock on the door at 10 o'clock. I was watching TV, and it was Stevie Ray, man, and he came in and asked me how I was doing and blah blah blah, and we ended up jamming on guitars.
Wow.
At 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah, Stevie was a nice kid, man. He's a good kid, very respectful of older musicians,
Yes, sir.
And I like Stevie.
That had to have been a very difficult time when you heard of his passing in 1990. Yeah?
Oh yeah, it hit everybody, man.
Yeah.
I mean, people loved Stevie. Stevie was, they loved him. He was the new Hendrix, He was a big star, He was going to be even bigger if he had stuck around.
Yes.
because he straightened himself out. He was a terrible drug addict. You know.
But I had heard that he had just gotten himself clean over the last year or two before. Yeah.
For a couple of years, and was playing just as good as ever.
Yeah.
And feeling better, smiling better, looking better. He had a young girlfriend. Yeah, he was doing all right, I'll tell you.
Well, I know that Clapton talked about being on stage with him that night. Him and Buddy Guy and several others on stage together doing Sweet Home Chicago, and just talking about what an amazing experience that was to be seeing the cleaned up version of Stevie Ray just commanding the stage.
Yeah. I think Stevie was going to change his style a little bit as he grew older.
Yeah.
I don't think he was going to be quite as rocky. You know, I think he was going to settle more into a blues thing and almost a jazz blues. You know, I could see him going there, you know.
Yeah.
And if you listen to some of his later records, his last records, you can hear that too in some of the cuts.
Yeah, I often sit back and think to myself, where would Stevie be if he were still here? Where would Hendrix be if he were still here? You know, where would Morrison be if he were still here? Where would Mama Cass be if she were still here? Just some of the incredible talent.
The 27 Club.
What's that?
The 27 Club.
Yeah.
They all died at 27.
Yes. And, you know, you sit back and you think, what could they have done in the world of music if they were still here?
Well, let's go even further than that. Let's say, what could Robert Johnson have done?
Oh, yeah.
You know, he would have definitely invented the electric guitar blues, and he would have had a band. There's always rumors that he did already, but he never got around to recording with a band.
Yeah,
but he had, you know, well, I'd love to know what he would have done.
Yes. Well, Steve, what are you up to these days? Are you out there still gigging around occasionally? What about the band? Have you guys been together?
Occasionally. My band's, you know, they're there if I need them, if I wanted. I'm not gigging a lot.
Okay.
I have asthma. So, you know, I'm 76. So, you know, I'm taking it easy.
Sure.
But I do a gig, but I can still do a gig, and I can still play. You know.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm going to keep it for a while.
Well, it's amazing to me. I got to see the Blue Avenue Delegates, and of course, your friend and mine, Dave Huber, is part of that band, and they're all in their 70s, and got to see them play late last year, middle of last year, something like that, or it was earlier this year. I'm sorry, and they still bring it together, man. They're still out there doing their thing and jamming away, and you know,
I like Dave. Dave's a good fella, man.
Hell of a sax player too, isn't he?
He's a great sax player. He keeps it simple. He plays good lines.
Yes, sir.
He never overplays. He knows what to do.
Definitely an old school player, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
How did you guys connect? Because I know he was with your band.
Fred Rife.
Oh,
Fred Rife.
Okay.
I told Fred Rife that I was looking for a horn player. He goes, well, call up, and he says to, call Dave up.
Yeah.
And so I did, and we got a gig together, and little by little, it started working.
And how long ago was that? About?
Oh, that was 10 years ago, maybe more.
Okay.
I really don't know. I played with Jack Scott for 7 years.
Okay.
You know who Jack Scott is?
I do not. By name, I know him.
What in the world's come over you? You remember that?
Yeah, I know the tune. Yep.
Yeah, that's his tune. He had many hit tunes in the 50s. He was as big a rock and roll star as Elvis for a few years. Anyway, me and him went to England 3 or 4 times. We went to a lot of places all over the country. We played. Play a lot of R&B shows, and on these R&B shows would be all my childhood heroes, like Jimmy Beaumont and the Skyliners,
Wow.
and Johnny Maestro of the Crest. Just people like that I grew up with, and it was so much fun doing those gigs, man. Hearing some of the great old black local groups like the Magnificents,
Mm-hmm.
and just incredible stuff, man. I really, really, really like doing that. You should check out some videos of me and Jack on YouTube.
I absolutely will. Matter of fact, if you'd like, I'll attach those to the information on this episode so other people can check it out as well. How's that sound?
Yeah, the way I walk is a good one.
Okay.
And you remember that the way I walk is just the way I walk. The way I smile is just the way I smile. Hey, do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, that was Jack.
Okay. All right. Back.
I also did a tour in Europe with Eddie Burns.
Okay.
You know who Eddie Burns is?
Yes, sir.
He was John Lee Hooker's best friend.
Okay.
And played with John Lee Hooker in the early 50s.
Wow.
He made a lot of his own 78s also.
Sure.
He recorded for Chess. Eddie was great, man. I loved Eddie.
Steve, I wanted to ask you, because you talked about, seeing a lot of your childhood favorites when you were over in Europe. What was that like standing on the side of the stage and watching them 10 business with you standing there? Was that a true pinch me moment?
Yeah. It was something else,
Yeah.
I know the guys in the band, when I did that, they weren't my age and they didn't have the same kind of feeling that I did. Because I remember them. I loved them.
Sure.
When I was a kid, But it was just a lot of fun to do that. A lot of them have since passed on. Jack Scott for one, Eddie Burns for another.
Yep.
They're all gone now.
Yeah. Well, Steve, if people wanted to find out more information about you, I know that there's a little bit out there, or maybe if they even wanted to book you for a gig, since you're gigging occasionally, I would assume you've got music available for sale if people wanted to buy, correct?
Well, not really. Not really. I'm down to just a couple of CDs.
Okay.
Have you got my Daddy Rolling Stone CD?
I do not.
Well, see, that's my best CD.
Well, we're going to have to talk about this after we get done, because I definitely want to buy a copy.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get one online real cheap. But it's my best record. There's a lot of blues on it.
Okay.
And there's some rock and roll on it, some rhythm and blues, stuff like Any Place Is Paradise by Elvis.
Yes, sir.
Stuff, really some serious stuff. And I think you'll enjoy it.
Very cool. Well, Steve Nardella.
And the Silvertones too. You got to get that one.
Yeah, I wrote that down. You told me One Chance With You is the one that I need to buy. So I'm going to go and get that.
There you go. There you go. Well, all right.
Steve, it has been a pleasure having you on today, sir. I want to thank you so much for your time. And I truly hope
I know I talk too much.
No, you're fine, man. You're fine. I hope I get an opportunity to see you perform sometime, but I definitely want to bring this album, and I'll get together with you and Huber, and we'll get this album signed. I would love to have it as part of my collection. How's that sound?
Sure. No problem, man.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you being here. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, our thanks to Steve Nardella for his time, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you that keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.